In the previous lecture, I mentioned that we were not applying for a job if it has already been applied. Well, that's not the case over here. We are definitely updating it. So there was one error in the previous lecture, and just wanted to rectify that. Now, coming on to the apply function over here, we have completed these many. Now we'll be going to get jobs. Now when we say get jobs, basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to find out the jobs that are available in the jobs container. So let's go to the integration tab first and go to the HTTP trigger part. Here it's get method. Now let's close this and go to the inputs tab. Here you can see the database is WApplyDB and the collection is jobs container. This is the connection string, and now coming to the query. This is the query that I've written. So what we're doing over here, we're saying that select all from jobs container. When I say C, it means that we are referring to the current collection name, that's jobs container over here. So select all from jobs container, where it contains the following: c.jobcity as in location parameter is true, and contains c.shortDescription for description as true. So by true, we are kind of ignoring the case over here. So that being said, this is the query that we have. So all we are saying, get me all those jobs which belongs to this location and have this description. And this is the reason why we are saying contains, because we are not specifically mentioning all the things. Like this is the city and this is the job description. It's just like this might be the job I'm looking for, like ASP.NET, and then we can land up as ASP.NET Core Developer as well. So that sort of thing we are doing over here in this query. Now let's close this and go to the code plus test part. Now once we have that thing as input document, which will be part of our function over here, what we are saying is if we get the location and description, then we are creating a company collection array. And for all the items matching to our query, which includes the location and description, we are getting all the companies. So here we have all the company IDs now. Then we are writing this function, select all from C, where C.id in company collection. And then if you see over here, collection name as company container. So once we are getting the job, we also want to tell the clients or candidates that this is the company you are applying for. Okay, so that's the reason why we are getting the information for each of the companies, because in jobs container we are just storing the company ID, not the whole information about the company. That comes from the company container. And then obviously we are passing this thing, the query that we have over here, into container.items.query, and then getting the result, sending it back as the input document. So here, one interesting thing that you would notice is we get this input document over here, which is containing everything from the jobs container table. And once we have filtered out, that is, this information from this query as part of the items, we are pushing this collection as well to the input document. So input document now contains two things. First, the whole job collection matching the criteria, and then the companies for which those jobs are. We'll send this information back to our React app and we'll be basically doing the mapping logic over there. So that's what the getJobs method is. Now let's go back to our function, and here we have completed the getJobs as well. Now let's go to get job details. So when you click on a specific job, you will be presented with the details of that job. So this is the detail of the job that you see over here. So what we are doing is, if I go to integration first and go to Azure Cosmos DB, in this case obviously the method is get only, and here we are passing the job ID, and for that specific job ID we are taking the details about it. And here when we go to code plus test, we are simply returning that thing. So that's pretty easy. Now let's go to the other one, the get job location. Let's click on this now, go to integration, go to Azure Cosmos DB, and here we are simply saying that give me the city and state from C where contains this. So location is the parameter that we are passing. So whatever location is, if that is a city, and based on that, just return me city and state. So this basically comes when the employer is posting a job. So for that reason, we are having it here, get jobs application or get application. Now let's go to code plus test environment, and we are just returning the input document over here as a result. Now let's take a look at one more function over here. So as I mentioned earlier, that there are two entities involved over here. One is the company and the other one is the candidate or applicant. And that is what we are over here having in this method called get user type. So whenever a user is logging in, we are basically trying to find out whether they are candidates or they are companies. If they are companies, we'll be presenting with a different UI. If they are candidates, obviously the UI will change accordingly. And that's what we are doing over here. Let's go to integration first and click on Azure Cosmos DB. And again, here you can see select all from C, where C.email is this. In this case, the collection is users container. Now, if I go to code test, we're simply returning the input document over here as a result. Going back to our function app, we've completed this as well. Now we'll be looking into save users. Remember, we'll be using A2B for authentication purposes, and the result of the users, that is their email ID, will be stored in users container. So here, once we get the email ID from A2BDC, we will be storing it in this particular table called users container using this method called save users. So here, this is the whole thing that we have. And then if I go to code plus test tab, there you go. So primarily what we are doing is, if you're a new user and you have signed in, you will be presented with two options, like whether you want to be as a candidate part of the system or as a company. Whatever you choose, based on that your user type will be decided, and that's how it is. So here we are using JSON Web Token package and Cosmos Client package. Now we first of all check whether the authorization email is there or not. If it is proper, then we move on to the next one. We simply go ahead and say email is this, user type is this, and then we insert this information. If the ID already exists, we simply update it again. So that's pretty much basic stuff that we're doing over here. This line client.database, then passing the database name, container, then collection name, upsert, item body. So every time you log in, this gets updated, and that's pretty much it. So now that we have covered most of this stuff over here in our function, in the next one we'll be taking a look at upload resume, as this is complicated, and payment process as well. That will involve Stripe payment gateway. That will be coming up in the next lecture.